of trickle in as they may. We're just going to get off started with a few introductions. I'll start since I'm already speaking. My name is Holly Brennan. I'm a graduate recruitment counselor here for Brown's master's programs, and we do have a few really exciting panelists joining us today. So I'd love if you, Ali, and Bahati, if you don't mind just briefly introducing yourself to get us started.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Silver. I'm a current master's student in the School of Professional Studies in the Masters of Technology Leadership program, current cohort.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Yiyu Zheng and I'm in the master program in the program of biotechnology. Nice to see you guys.
Hello everyone, my name is Bahat Nikera. So I'm actually a neuroscience PhD student, but I work as a graduate students of color coordinator at the Brown Center for Students of Color. So I'll be speaking a little bit about the center and about my role there.
Thank you all so much. We will also be having the Assistant Director of the Brown Center for Students of Color joining us briefly to share, his work at the center. And we might not get him for the whole session, but if you did have any questions, Bahati is a really great person to ask those questions about. And we'll be answering questions throughout the session. So don't be afraid about submitting it early. We will save time at the end of the session, as well as answering questions throughout if the general group would benefit from an answer. We will also be trying to send as many links, resources via the chat and Q&A as well, so please keep an eye out for those. And if you've come to the session, you probably know that you are eligible for an application fee waiver. You don't have to act or do anything on your part. It is automatically tied to the email that you use to register for the session. It just takes about a business day to apply to your account, and you won't see it until you start an application. So should you have any issues, you can always email the masters_admission@brown.edu. I put that in the chat just for easy, copy and pasting. And from there, I think we can kind of get started on what our agenda is going to be looking like today. If we can go on the next slide. Thank you. Thank you. So generally, we want to look at student life at Brown because the graduate student experience really is unique here at Brown. And there's a lot of resources and supports that are specific to master's students. That's really kind of unlike a lot of our peer institutions. So we'll be starting off looking at a high-level view of what it's like to be a master's student at Brown. We'll be inviting Ali and Yu and even Bahati for their experience living on campus or near campus and being involved in the community. I'm going to share some information about our Center for Master's Students Excellence, as well as, again, a high-level overview of graduate student housing, the availability of that, and generally what it's like to just live around Providence. And again, live Q&A at the end, so we should be able to, with 150 people and a few people in the chat, answer your questions pretty quickly. But yeah, please just be mindful and have patience while we are answering, and you always have our emails if we don't get to every question in the session. So if we go to the next slide, please. And the next. So building community, especially as a graduate student, being here for maybe only a year or 2 years, depending on what your program or interest in program that you're trying to apply to, we always recommend for your social, emotional well-being to really build community as soon as day one. So Ali and you can actually speak to coming as a student to all student orientation just 2 weeks ago and the excitement of coming to campus and really being able to meet people and meet your cohort. It's a really wonderful atmosphere, high energy. And because you're only here for so little time, we really recommend just diving headfirst day one, attending events, trying to not even network for professional development, but just networking, making friends, and making your experience as a graduate student in this short period of time really worth it and really enjoyable. Obviously, being a graduate student could be a little stressful. You're balancing potentially having children. You have probably a part-time job. You may just be moving here for your degree to study here. So we understand that there's a lot of different stress factors involved that maybe undergraduate students don't really experience. So what this kind of looks like even beyond the first day of orientation is For example, Brown Center for Students of Color, they host events as well as dinners, as well as newsletters, all sorts of opportunities to be able to get involved, even if you have no idea, you've never been to the center before. Pretty much all of our centers and student groups are welcoming to all folks of all identities. And I think that's really just a great way to start kind of being brave, branching out. And Bahati, if you just want to kind of give me a brief overview of some of the events that you might be hosting over the next semester over at the center.
Yes, of course. So at the center, we host a lot of events that are geared towards building community between graduate students of color. So it's both academic and social events. So for example, at the start of each semester, we'll have a welcome back event that's open to all graduate and even like medical students, just so that we can build community between whether you're a medical student at Brown or a PhD student or a master's student or just along the field, just really kind of honing those connections to help you both during your time at Brown and after. So in addition to Welcome Back, we also have a studying kind of like working writing group event that happens at the end of each semester just to help with studying for finals, or writing any papers, all of that. And then we'll usually have a couple of social events that are intermixed throughout each semester that are designed again, just to build community, but specifically targeted for certain groups, such as we have an event that we partner with the LGBTQ Center. We have an event that we partner with the U-Fly Center, so it's like undocumented, low income and first generation students, and then another one as well with the Global Brown Center, so for international students as well. So yes, a whole kind of list of different events, and not just social, but academic as well, in addition to readings and book groups, all of that.
Yeah, thank you for that insight. That is really great kind of pivot to also kind of talk about the general events that you can attend as a just student at Brown. They have, book lectures, guest lectures. They have Martha Nussbaum actually came to campus last semester, which was so exciting for me as a previous philosophy major. But yeah, beyond your department, even if you never left your department, you would be bombarded, honestly, with event invites and possibilities to connect with people academically and socially as well. A lot of this is available under Graduate Student Listserv, which is basically like a massive email list that you will have access to if you ever become a Brown student. So we can't share that link right now because it's not accessible without a login, but there are, again, abundance of opportunities either through email, through this listserv, where you can connect with people and learn more about where you can attend social events. And if we go to the next slide, we can kind of show the most common centers and offices that as a graduate student you might be engaging with. So our Center for Master Students Excellence, we are located in the Jewelry District, a neighborhood in Providence. This is where our Center for Master Students Excellence team is, which is basically a big fancy term to say that our student affairs and professional development and career services team are all housed under the Center for Master Students Excellence. Of course, as a graduate student, you do have access to student health insurance, as well as other counseling, individual group counseling through student health and wellness services, as well as other wellness activities like yoga or free yoga, free meditation, webinars of that nature that can help with emotional kind of maintaining while you are in graduate school, because we understand the balance of school and life can be a little precarious. As well as the Office of Chaplains and Religious Life, Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and the Sheridan Center for Teaching and Learning, all really great resources, not only that they host their own social events and academic events, but also ways that you can get involved with either tutoring. The Sheridan Center also has tutoring options as well as English language workshops and writing workshops. And on the next slide, we're going to see some identity centers, one of which Bahati just kind of briefly mentioned his involvement in, the Brown Center for Students of Color, as well as the U-Fly Center that he also aptly noted. So I would love if you could just kind of share a little bit more, Bahati, about some other kind of things that you try to cater for your graduate students and how long you've been with the center for.
Yes, of course. So I've been working with the center for about 3 years now. So The good thing about actually every one of these identity centers is that they all have like an open graduate position. So any graduate student, whether you're a master's or PhD student, can apply for these students for this position. And the position kind of help put on graduate centered programming, and they'll pay you a stipend, small stipend each year. So it's about actually like a good amount. I think it's ranges from about like $7,000 or so. So it can really help in terms of tuition or kind of housing costs or anything like that. And it's really fun because usually you apply for the role that you kind of most fits kind of your identity and just kind of your passion. So I know for me, it was the Brown Center Students of Color, but I have friends who work as grad coordinators at the Rhode Center for Women and Gender, LGBTQ Center, Office of Military Affiliated Students, UFly, GBC, so all the centers. So, and each center kind of caters to I guess, the mission of the center. And like I said before, so for the Brown Center Students of Color, we're just kind of aimed at building community for graduate students of color at Brown.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that really highlighted also just like the cross collaboration between these many identity centers and offices on campus. It can get a little confusing trying to delineate who does what because a lot of them do really important work, and a lot of it is really just at the core of trying to spread belonging, invite community, and also inform with open dialogue. So I think last year my colleagues and I were invited to the International Women's Day that the Sarah Doyle Center had hosted, which was so fun and it really an opportunity to kind of like see from a student's perspective the events that a lot of these identity centers offer. I'm curious, you and Allie, if you've had an opportunity to attend any events so far at any of these aforementioned centers or offices.
I'm actually right next to the Sarah Doyle Center. Today they're celebrating their 50 years at Brown University and they're having a little celebration. So that'll actually be my first event with them, and I'm very excited to join them.
Hey, yay.
I'm actually not too sure about the other centers, but we did give a tour in the Globe, which is the Global Brown Center for International Students. And also, I know the First Gen College, they are amazing groups and they located in the Science Library, which is on Science Free. And they provide a lot of good informations. And I believe they just changed their names a bit.
Yeah, we'll see some, I think, name changing and iterations over maybe next couple years, but I think also just the core kind of objective being that these spaces are open and welcoming of all folks, and often you'll find friends that are kind of involved in all sorts of activities in these centers. So I think we can go to the next slide and just give you a kind of a sampling of what these events look like. Some of these are hosted in collaboration again with other of our campus partners, or also with our graduate student engagement specialist, Morgan Orlandi. So she was really spearheading these grad community yoga classes, which is still a reoccurring programming that we'll see kind of in some later slides, but just to kind of give you a little taste of what these events look like. A lot of them are safe for, if you don't drink alcohol or if you're sober, a lot of these events are welcoming for students of all different accessibilities and inclusive to all sorts of lifestyles. So a little bit helpful to know as a graduate student who wants to be distinguished from an undergraduate population, but also still have fun and be social. These are some more mature kind of events that you can take a part of. So we want to go to the next slide. We'll be starting to talk about the Center for Master Students Excellence, which is an amazing support team. If you want to go to the next slide, you will see their lovely faces. None of these people are on this call today, but we will be hosting a session next week that will invite, I believe, Komal and Amanda to start talking about professional development and career services there. But Bahati, what's your question?
Sorry, yes. So I just wanted to also add another tidbit. Like we talked about the centers, and I think you also briefly touched upon this, but there are a lot of graduate affinity groups as well that work in tandem with the centers. So, for example, I know there was a flyer over there about the GSOC in STEM, so that's like graduate students of color in STEM. but they're different affinity groups, whether it's like LGC, which I believe is Latinx Grad Council. They have affinity groups for that are related to, for example, maybe specifically biotech. Doesn't necessarily have to be tied to any identities, sometimes more career options. And then also there's the whole graduate student council, which kind of serves all graduate students in general. So a lot of different avenues and groups that you can be a part of or just kind of go to their programming.
Yeah, thank you so much for that addition because definitely overlooked that a little bit. There are a bunch of student groups, especially specifically graduate student groups, which they do have to be approved by Graduate Student Council. They also welcome suggestions for new clubs all the time, where you can get like minor university funding to host either programming events or to host like academic events. So that's a really great addition. Thank you for reminding me of those, and also highlighting that there are specific graduate student affinity groups, as well as a lot of honestly cross collaboration with some undergraduate groups. So again, we understand that graduate students do want to be separate, having their own kind of space to be graduate students, but at Brown, I can really safely say that the populations of like undergraduate, graduate, or PhD students, oftentimes you're in the same spaces, you're in the same kinds of classes, you might be in adjacent kind of programs. So that kind of cross collaboration is really welcome and opening and absolutely non-competitive. So I see that a lot of people are welcoming, even if you're a graduate student trying to join an undergraduate group, and vice versa. So yes, as far as like our Master Student Excellence team, these are your go-to people when it comes to any sort of, well, actually we can go to the next slide so we can talk about their core functions, but anything when it comes to professional development, career services, academic affairs, personal, crises, emergencies that you might be going through, these are your people that you want to go to first. Janae, who we are welcoming back from maternity leave, she is our Assistant Dean of Student Affairs, who also offers individual appointments one-on-one if you ever have an issue or you just want to talk to somebody through something. These are your people that you can go to first, and they'll be able to connect you with the appropriate member on campus. Can we go to the next slide, please? So yeah, those core functions, as I mentioned, especially the professional development and career service team, it's a really unique, hands-on kind of assistance that even extends past your graduation. So something I learned in the last year is that as an alumni at Brown, you can continue consulting, making appointments, trying to connect with our professional development and career services team up to 3 years post-graduation, which is an amazing kind of resource and something that kind of keeps you engaged with our alumni community and also continuing that career support even after being a graduate. So of course, graduating with Brown on your resume as a degree is a huge, amazing accomplishment, and it looks amazing, but also what you do with that, how you explore your employment opportunities, how you are preparing for resumes or your cover letters or, you know, an interview possibly while you're graduating. These are going to be your people that can support you from A to Z and even post-graduation. And I do want to put a quick plug in that Como will be, and I mentioned this earlier, but we are hosting a session next week that really dives much more in depth about the level of support that they offer, as well as new initiatives that they are constantly trying to create each year to service the master students as best as they can. Having a team like this that is really specifically for master students means that they are available, generally much more available than you would if you're trying to be an undergraduate student. So, you know, beyond your advisor and your department and our assistant dean, you know, you have like an umbrella of support for professional development and career services. And as far as student affairs and support services go, of course, Morgan does an amazing job at programming for our graduate students, trying to meet them where they're at, try to provide social events that they are interested in that helps their sense of belonging and emotional kind of learning while on campus, but it's specifically also connecting students with important resources like and Brown is known for its acronyms, but Student Accessibility Services, our Office of International Students and Scholars, as well as counseling and health services, or even tutoring like through the Sheridan Center that I shared before. as well as concerns that can be a little bit more serious. Maybe, you're having trouble in class, either an academic reason, you have, God forbid, a crisis at home or a medical emergency, you need to take a leave of absence, or you have an accommodation that is needed. These are the people that can absolutely work with you to make sure that you have all that you need to be able to be successful and to be comfortable while you're a student here. So if we want to go to the next slide, our assistant dean had provided this slide for us, and I think that it's really a great advocate for being a graduate student. You can kind of feel maybe a little decentralized from the regular population. You might be a little bit more mature, have a family, just be in a kind of a different spot in life than an undergraduate student. So you might not feel as comfortable asking for help or even know who to go to, but this is really just an encouragement that there are an abundance of resources and support, and that we just ask that you are brave enough to ask for that help, because we have plenty of people that would be more than willing to offer that to you. So I don't know if you've met Bahati, if you've met Janae yet. I know that she just kind of came back from maternity leave, but if anyone wants to kind of speak to their experience with working with the Master Student Excellence team, I'd love to hear your perspective. None of you have worked with them yet? Okay, well, it's never too late. It's never too late. Awesome. So I think that we can then go to the next slide, which will be just kind of a sampling of programming that Morgan has really focused on. A lot of it is about, stress relief and about managing stress. So you'll be seeing these kind of continuous conversations both throughout even the summer. So we have some programming over the summer, but typically, the academic calendar year, you're going to see opportunities like this, like free yoga classes, free webinars, free about budgeting, about loan repayments, about skill building that has nothing to do with school, which is amazing because I think it really just helps you grow as a person and not just as a student. And a lot of these events are going to be available through newsletters, are going to be available through our master kind of communications called Today at Brown, which some events are public. So even as a prospective student now, without a login, you probably will be able to see some of those sampling events that are open to the public. Like I mentioned, like the book talk with Martha Nussbaum, that was technically an open event to the public. As well as, our Instagram page and the social medias of really all aforementioned centers and offices and student groups. A lot of them do use social media as a way to kind of promote their events. But there's a way to, either walking around campus or just kind of like browsing your Today at Brown announcement. There is, an abundance of opportunities to focus more on your wellness and also have fun without it having, cost as a barrier or really time or something that's too time consuming. I'm curious on if anyone has attended or an event. I know that, Allie and you technically work with Morgan, but have you actually attended any events yet so far?
Yeah, so all during orientation, we had a ton of events. We had a rock climbing event that you led. I led an outing to our local football club. And we had a yoga event as well. So we are typically organizing these events and then also attending them. So you'll see us there if you're here this year. If not, you'll see other graduate assistants there.
And we will have another events this Thursday at GCB. And also we have so many other events about yoga or outing throughout the semester.
Awesome. And I know, Bahati, you're more up on the hill, but have you attended an event with Morgan yet?
No, I haven't yet, but I've heard a lot about them, like great things. Everyone I know, especially people, my friends in master's programs, they always have an amazing time. So
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Now I think for the next slide, we're just going to be talking kind of briefly about the emergency, or I'm sorry, master student perks and things to know that we get common questions about. Yes, parents can apply for what is called the Brown Graduate Student Child Care Subsidy, which is available, I think, for applying usually in your first semester, so usually in September or October as you first start your program. Health insurance is required for all Brown students if you're not covered elsewhere. Otherwise, you would be required to obtain health insurance through Brown, which would be an additional fee on top of your tuition and other living expenses. There are options to obtain a meal plan as a graduate student, which is also a really kind of unique perk for a graduate student. That's great for if you are, you're working a lot, you're trying to balance work and home, and you know that it would just be easier to know that you can grab something through the dining hall instead of having to run home or buy elsewhere. So that can help you budget also and maintain a healthy lifestyle. All students, graduate students involved, get free membership to the Nelson Fitness Center, which is a huge, amazing gym that is open as early as 5 a.m. They host fitness classes, group classes. They have also, I lost my train of thought, but they also have a number of events there and free ticketing towards like football games or for other kind of like athletic events that are happen on campus. And finally, this Bear Bargains discount list, which I think we can, one of my colleagues may be able to post the link into, but this is an evergreen kind of well, I'm sorry, always changing, not evergreen, list of bargains by being a Brown student, either neighboring kind of local community businesses or other partnerships that we've made around the city of Providence. The Bear Bargains discount list will show those kind of neighboring partnerships that we work with and that you can get a discount as being a student at Brown. But also specifically, Providence is home to a few different colleges. So as much as it is not really a college town or college city, you'll see a lot of opportunities for student discounts because of the fact that we have at least, a handful of other colleges in the area. So the local community is very welcoming and accepting of the student population here in Providence. And lastly, if the next slide, we are going to be talking just about emergency funding because it is something that I think undergrad or a little bit more particular for graduate students who are typically self-paying, not receiving an abundance of scholarships or things of that nature. There is an opportunity to apply for emergency funding through our Division of Masters and Professional Programs. There's opportunities also to get loaner laptops, cameras, equipment such as that through our OIT, Office of Information Technology Department, as well as short-term emergency loans for any sort of circumstances that life might throw at you that we obviously can't plan ahead of time. So just know that there are certain really specific and really niche resources that are unique to Brown and also unique to graduate students that you can just have in the back of your mind that this is something that you can always lean on, God forbid, in the case of emergency. And I think that covers at least emergency funding. So these are things obviously that you don't have to remember. You don't have to write down all this information. If you ever decide to come to Brown and apply and you're admitted, all this kind of resources and support will be made available to you so that you are aware as soon as your first day. But just wanted to kind of share as you are planning your degree and planning all the other kind of nuts and bolts that go into going to grad school that you're aware of this going forward. So if we want to go to the next slide, we're going to be talking about graduate student housing and living in Providence. If we want to go to the next slide, please. So graduate student housing is a very common question that we get amongst our prospective students. Unfortunately, it is a highly limited kind of resource. Typically, they have about 200 apartments a year, and our master student population is just hovering around 3,000. So, of course, students studying on campus in residential programs are the only ones eligible to even apply for these kind of housing. So, unfortunately, online students or part-time students would not be eligible for applying. But with that being said, typically these rental periods start before that kind of typical fall academic start. So you'll be seeing rental periods starting between May or August for usually a class start of September. And it's really helpful to kind of note that, of course, we know that our some of our master's programs do allow for spring entry, and unfortunately, River House and affiliated housing would not be an accessible resource because of just the times that their rental periods start. All to say that this might be a little bit too much information at this time that you're planning, if you're even applying to Brown, or if it's a right fit and we have a program that you're really interested in. I think this is something that our team feels very passionate about informing, at least as soon as you can, just to know that finding housing would be a very manual process if you did not get River House or affiliated housing, which most of our students don't. Again, over 75% of our entire master's student population will end up finding private, unaffiliated apartments from Brown. So you'll see them listed on Zillow, on Facebook groups, on other kind of real estate platforms. And I would love if Ali and Yiyu and Bahati too, given that you don't currently live in any of these places, if you could just share kind of your experience of what it was like to either find housing and where you might live now, or what neighborhood roughly.
Sure. So I actually moved to Providence a couple years before I started attending Brown. So I moved here without knowing I was going to attend Brown. It just so happened that I decided to apply and got into a Brown program. I actually live in College Hill, so I live within walking distance of Brown, which is very typical for graduate students and undergrad students. It's really walkable. It's a beautiful area, very historic. I actually found my housing through Zillow via a realtor. There's someone who was willing to work with me to find rental units, and she was extremely helpful in finding my unit, which was actually not on Zillow. So I would definitely recommend getting a little creative, reaching out to people in the local community. People want to help, and yeah, it's there's a lot of hidden gems. Like I said, it's historic, it's beautiful. In the College Hill area, don't expect necessarily like the newest amenities. It's but they're beautiful old houses is what you'll find most around here.
To me, I do value a parking spot because parking on hills, on a college hill, or like downtown somewhere, or even near River House is traumatizing. So the first priority for me will be the facility nearby. Is there a lot of restaurant nearby? And do they offer a free parking spot? And also the rent, your budget is one of the factor you should consider. And also I just look through the Zillow and on Google Map in general about like apartment because I do not want living the apartment where a house that doesn't have AC in it or heating in it. So that's the part I kind of like filter on Google. So they can like do a really good job even you just search on Google or Zillow.
Yeah, then for me, for the first half of my PhD, I lived mostly in the east side of Providence. So on the hill, not like directly on campus, but a little bit farther away. I lived in an area called Wayland. Was a beautiful area. Was like relatively cheap when I first started living there. Now I got a little bit pricier, but it has like great restaurants, I kind of great amenities for all these things. And then after that, I lived in Fox Point, so it's kind of it's about like a neighborhood away from Wayland. That was another great place that's very closer to Brown's. Well, this side of the campus. Those both of these neighborhoods, Wayland and Fox Point, are a bit farther from downtown. So where like some master's centered programming is, but I know for some classes you also do take them on College Hill. So it kind of depends on what classes where most of your work is going to be primarily focused in. And then now I actually live in like more proper Providence, so the west side near the hospitals. And that's also a great place, a little bit farther from a lot of my grad student friends. So that's one thing to think about, but the rent is much cheaper. And yeah, another great area. And it's closer to like, it has more of a local feel to it, which is great. I had a different experiences when trying to secure each of the three places. So my first place, I went on Zillow, partnered with some grad students who were also incoming with me that I met at orientation. And we all got a house that way. My second place that I lived at was just through people in my department. So asked around like, oh, does anyone have an opening? Who I could trust to live with, and got a housing through that way. And then for the third housing experience, I just looked on like Facebook and messaged some people there. And this third experience, I actually lived there part time. So I live in New Haven, but then like Tuesday through Thursday, I'll come to Providence and commute for like half the week and stay at this place. So there's some people who are open to that. If you want kind of like a commuter kind of schedule and just a part-time place, I'd recommend going on Facebook. But if you want something longer term, then you can go Zillow. Some people use Craigslist. Some people get a realtor. Anything really.
Yeah, thank you for also even talking about the kind of surrounding neighborhoods and how accessible they are to Brown's campus. Emma, I'm going to ask you to go to actually slide 19 so we can get just a map of Providence because I feel like this just makes sense given the kind of direction of this conversation. So, yeah, as Bahati was just mentioning, he's got a place in Fox Point. College Hill is really kind of where that center of the map is. It's really where the majority of our campus is, although, of course, we are expanding a little bit more into downtown with the medical school and also with our graduate school partners. So you'll be probably attending classes or events between those two main neighborhoods. And this entire map is really every county in Providence. So it looks larger than it is, but Providence is a very small city. It's only about 250,000 people, which considering every other major capital in America, that's very, very small. A fraction of Boston, even smaller fraction than New York. But really, from top to bottom, this city is about 20 square miles. So you can get really from point A to point B, typically without traffic, probably 15 minutes away. It's kind of an inside joke that everything in Rhode Island or Providence is about 15 minutes away from each other. But yeah, just want to give you this kind of like visual representation of even if you didn't get an apartment on College Hill, which is usually pretty rare and hard to obtain, that based on the kind of bus system, the shuttle bus that is specific to Brown, the accessibility to campus is actually really forgiving in a city like Providence. There's bike lanes, there's bus lanes. It is a lot more friendly for a commuter student or somebody who just didn't want to live quite in the heart of the city where you might see some of the higher rent prices. Yes, Bahati.
Yeah, I just want to add. So right now, I currently live in Upper South Providence, so I never actually strayed too far from downtown or College Hill.
Mhm.
I would recommend staying around there. I think Holly were talking about like bus and shuttle system. I know as Brown students, I believe this should be true for master students, but you actually allowed free access to the RIPTA, the Rhode Island kind of public transportation. So you can use that if you live farther out or you don't have a car. I'm a big biker, so I bike everywhere, and I haven't had a problem. But granted, again, I've lived in Wayland, Fox Point, Upper South Providence, so not biking too far. But the bus lines kind of go all throughout Providence. I will say that I've had some friends who have lived in Federal Hill, which is like a great neighborhood, has a lot of restaurants, speaks to a lot of Italian restaurants. But they have told me that they've had issues with kind of like their packaging getting stolen, and sometimes maybe their car has gotten broken into. I don't think anywhere in Providence is like super unsafe and all that, but there are places that maybe you want to do a little bit more research or ask by students who are currently go to the school before living in. Um, that's about it.
Yeah, that's I think great advice too. I think especially if you're kind of coming to Providence or from Rhode Island from afar and you're not familiar with the city, that definitely ask questions, ask especially your network about their experience living in certain parts of Providence because like any city, you're going to have some parts that are not so nice that or might just not fit your needs or be right for you. But definitely it's good to know that you're going to have to do some of this manual research and also just be your own best advocate when you are looking for housing and just be careful with sharing personal information and like you would be searching for an apartment anywhere, but especially in an area that you might not be familiar with. So if we would just want to go to the previous slide, I know we're jumping around here a little bit, sorry, but getting around, because Bahati just reminded me too of this map of the specific bus university shuttle. that has express routes that basically does a giant loop around Brown's campus that goes, over the river from College Hill, down the hill to the Jewelry District, which is where where we're at the Division of Masters and Professional Programs, as well as cross the river again to Fox Point that Bahati just mentioned, and then back up north to College Hill. So between getting around campus and Providence, it is a very forgiving city to not have a car. Particularly, it's also hard to find parking and permits. It's not incredibly as difficult as you would find with like New York or Boston, but it is still a really limited resource. So we recommend if someone doesn't have a car that you don't have to change your whole lifestyle, get a car and do all these things. It's pretty accessible to be able to live in a city like Providence, given that it fits your accessibility needs. There's Ubers, there's Lyfts, there's bike scooters, also car rentals through like Zip cars and Hertz. As well as, but I mentioned that it was the RIPTA. The RIPTA is free for all students. You just have to show your student ID, and the Rhode Island Transit Authority goes all around Rhode Island. So that's not just specific to Providence, and that would also connect you to some of these bigger hub spots like TF Green Airport, which is in Warwick, just about 20 minutes south of us. Boston Logan Airport, which is the next major kind of international airport, which is about an hour from us in Massachusetts, as well as connecting you to the other kind of railway systems. The MBETA is also connected to the Excel Express, which is basically goes from north to south on the east coast of the United States, as well as towards, again, New York, Boston, some of those main kind of transportation spots. As well as something really fun, which I haven't gotten the chance to do it too much, but the ferry to Newport. Providence is right on the river in the Great Ocean State. So Newport is this really beautiful island that you can take the ferry from Providence to Newport for a pretty small fee. And that's just a kind of a fun way to explore other parts of Rhode Island, while also being a student here for the short period of time. Has anyone here taken the ferry to Newport?
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did too. Yeah, it's super beautiful. I went to the Newport Folk Fest last summer and I took the ferry there and it was just like a really gorgeous summer experience. So definitely recommend it.
And there's a lot of ferries you can take to other island, like Block Island. They're pretty, like super good. Newport and also Cape Cod, I believe. Ali might be better explaining the Cape Cod part than me.
I love it. Yes, I grew up on Cape Cod, so I haven't yet taken the ferry back to Cape, but that would be so fun and such a different perspective. But yes, if we want to go actually to the previous slide and just talk about the kind of Rhode Island and Providence culture in a nutshell, Ali just lovingly noted about the yearly folk festival that she went to this summer, which is almost sells out pretty much immediately anytime that it's posted. It's sold out usually within an hour of tickets being posted. But that happens in Newport, and they also do jazz festivals every year, as well as just a bunch of different festivals, events. A lot of so Rhode Island and Providence in general, I think is very nature friendly. It is a very green spot. There are plenty of parks. It's actually a really beautiful city too, as Ali mentioned, with this the architecture and the kind of quintessential New England vibe that it brings. So in the summer, it's very high energy, very fun, very Ocean State vibe. And then in the, kind of colder seasons, we see this really beautiful foliage that you see in this picture here at Lincoln Woods, which is the next largest really state park or nature area closest to Providence versus Roger Williams. Roger Williams is both a zoo and also a giant park that they host summer symphonies at. You can grab a permit to play frisbee with friends. And they also have a zoo there. So amongst a lot of these things, and also mentioned on this list, but obviously not fully encompassing on this slide, is a number of free things that you can partake in as a student. So the RISD Museum, the Rhode Island School of Design is free as a student for Brown. So you just show your ID and you have free entrance, as well as having discounts to our Lindemann Arts Center, the Providence Performing Arts Center, and things of that nature. So I would love if you could each just kind of share what you liked most to do in Rhode Island and Providence when you are not in class.
Actually, Lincoln Woods, since you mentioned it, is a place I love spending time. I love nature, so it's a quick, less than 15-minute drive away. It has a huge lake, as you can kind of get a little peek in that photo. It's really gorgeous at all seasons. And there's a lot of other nature, so kind of like within a 15-minute range, there's several parks that you can explore and hike. Yeah, Rhode Island is gorgeous, honestly.
Yeah, I'm really into the art scene. So there's like a vibrant art community here in Providence. So whether you're going, I think it's in part because of there's a lot of students at Brown who are artistic, as well as RISD, as well as the other universities. But they have a thriving poetry community here. A lot of great galleries that are outside of RISD. And then as well, they also have a really cool bar scene. So they have like some kind of like more rowdy bar clubs areas, but then also just more like cocktail bars, or even dive bars, everything like that. And a great theater scene too, because of the Brown Theater program.
Yeah, thank you.
And for me, I would definitely say rock climbing. There's a lot of amazing rock climbing gyms. One is walkable from College Hill, and the other one you have to drive for like 15 minutes. They're both pretty good. And besides that, I think Wickenden, which is near College Hill, they offer the art festival on monthly basis, which is another good place to go during the weekend.
Yeah, thank you all for that. And especially reminding me of things that are happening around Providence that I forgot to mention. There is weekly farmers markets, flea markets that happen right on campus or even right outside campus, as well as just a reoccurring farmers market that happens every Saturday throughout the year. So I would say, especially because Providence is such a small city that its nightlife is not it's not awake all night like New York. Like definitely bars close around 1 or 2 and it gets pretty quiet in those hours. But it's also really forgiving for people who want to engage socially in like not just nightlife. So as Bahati mentioned, really robust art scene. I have a few friends and bands that play all around Providence, and it's really, really great city for small entrepreneurs trying to get into the art scene, trying to perform on kind of a small basis. So if you're kind of into that intimate kind of setting, I think Providence is really darling city for that. Yes, Sally.
One thing to add, I recently saw a stat where it said that Providence had a higher per capita, I think, restaurants than New York City. So we have a ton of amazing restaurants in Providence. There's another university, Johnson and Wales University, which has an amazing culinary program. So a lot of graduates from there go into the community and start restaurants or work at existing restaurants. And so we have incredible food and a ton of restaurants to try. So that's one of my favorite parts of Providence as well.
Yes, usually we have a slide talking about just our favorite food places, but I thought that it would be kind of nice to just kind of get your perspective on your favorite kind of restaurants around here. I did live in New York for a brief period of time, and I am constantly impressed by the variety of food in Providence and also how long these restaurants have been around. So it's a lot of really local businesses that have been around for 30, 40 years, winning James Beard Awards, and being just really cute and intimate. So thank you. Thank you for that insight, Allie. Anything else that you or Bahati you want to add before we kind of wrap up our session here? Well, thank you all so much for your insight, and I'm just going to be taking a peek at our Q&A here, see if there's anything that might be helpful for the group. As far as applying for housing for spring 2026, so as I mentioned, the kind of Brown specific housing opportunities will not be available if you're starting in the spring. You'll have to be looking at like a private exterior resource, unfortunately. As far as what mental health services is offered for graduate students at Brown, can anyone briefly share their experiences with these resources if they've had any? So I'll give the floor to our panelists here, and then I can kind of just give an overview of what's available.
Yeah, I know there is CAPS, so I believe it's counseling and psychological services. So I believe they should give free sessions to students, like therapy sessions, and then they also have kind of like an online therapy system. They partner with like another organization that gives you like I think maybe something like 12 or something like that a year free hourly sessions. In addition to like if you don't want to meet directly with a provider, you can all they also have like focus groups kind of. So they have one for students who have ADHD, one for students who suffer from procrastination, or another one for students who are going through other kind of more personal issues. And so these are groups that you can meet with other individuals that are going through something similar, and then talk with like a specialized licensed provider to help you kind of guide through any issues that you're having. So they're very, compared to other schools, Brown really believes in making sure that you are good mentally and as well as physically. So yeah, would highly recommend taking advantage of those programs and initiatives.
Yeah, thank you.
For CAPS, I have something to add on. They are partner with Timely Care, which is an online program, and they offer only 10 sessions per year. But if you spread it out with all the holidays and the winter, summer breaks, you can have like one therapy per month, which is pretty decent number. And also caps usually capped up really quick. So if you want to like join them for the psychiatry or psychology session therapy, you have to go there like as soon as possible before the spot got taken.
They do also offer kind of like acute care. So, for example, if you're going through a crisis and you need to see someone, like the next day, they can book someone for you. But you're not gonna be able to see that person like weekly or all that. They'll try to point you through resources to get you more extended care, but that's just you have some sort of crisis that happens, you really really need to see someone. They have programs for that.
Yeah, thank you for that also crisis input because Janae, as I mentioned, our assistant dean of student affairs is also her background is in social work. So she is also the great person for if, you can't get an appointment timely care or if you need some assistance immediately, she is also the kind of person that you can kind of deal with on a crisis support kind of basis, as well as, having either, your health insurance through Brown would be able to connect you with either a physician or another kind of partner, maybe not through the university, but at least, Janae, in between the health insurance that you would get at Brown, you would be having opportunities to engage in a number of different mental health resources. But again, that's why we really highlight the events, these kind of opportunities to take free yoga classes, to sit in on a meditation class, to really empower you to be your own best advocate with taking care of your mental health and obviously trying to provide the services for any crisis support that you might be experiencing. And there's about 3,000 master's students here for our residential programs. We are growing our online master's population pretty heavily, but as far as people on campus, it's around 3,000. So compared to our undergraduate population, it is a smaller fraction, but still a pretty healthy sized community. And I'm not really seeing any other question that might be applicable to the group. So I just want to say thank you all for joining us. And please, if you are interested in more kind of events like this, where we talk about master's life at Brown, you can go to our master's events portal. You can also look at your program of interest. If you are interested in a particular program, they typically are hosting program information sessions all until really the application deadline. We recommend, looking at those pieces and also looking at some future sessions where we're hosting with our professional development team, where we actually invite the UFly Center, as well as a workshop for building your best application. So really great opportunities to kind of get some more support while you're applying or need some assistance in that regard. You can always follow us on Instagram and email us anytime if you have any questions from here. And just a kind reminder that you will be getting a follow-up email to confirming that you had your application fee waiver, as well as a link to this recording in just a few days. And if anything comes up in the meantime, please don't be afraid to reach out. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Ali, you, and Bahati, and my colleagues in the background. Have a lovely day, everyone.